I worked 70 hours a week, never took a sick day, missed birthdays, skipped my sister's wedding, all for a company I believed in. Then one Monday morning I hit traffic. It was bad, the kind that makes the news. I walked in 5 minutes late and my boss Matt looked me dead in the eye and said, "Pack your things, you're done." I didn't cry, not right then. I just felt empty. He handed me a box already taped up like they were expecting it, like I was nothing. That was the day I started writing my own ending. I'm Brooke Landry, 29, from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and this is how I made my boss regret firing the one person he couldn't replace. They called me the backbone at Echelon Systems. When I first joined, it was just a tiny company, barely a dozen of us crammed into a small office space that smelled of cheap coffee and ambition. I was fresh out of college, eager, hungry to prove myself. My family? They were always busy. My mom was always focused on my older sister Sarah, the one who was good at everything, the one who always seemed to get their attention. My dad? He was quiet, immersed in his own world, rarely noticing if I was there or not. I learned early on that to get noticed, I had to be exceptional, indispensable. Echelon felt like my chance to be just that, to be seen. I threw myself into the work. I believed in what we were building, in the idea of making logistics smoother, faster for businesses. It was complex, challenging, and it filled a void inside me that had been there for as long as I could remember. I was the first one in, the last one out. I helped design the internal systems from the ground up, the very software that our entire operation ran on. Every single day, I poured my heart into every line of code, every flowchart. I trained almost everyone who came after me, patiently explaining the intricacies of systems I had personally built. When we finally grew big enough to need one, I even sat down and wrote the employee handbook, defining the very culture of the company. It felt like my baby, a creation that was truly mine. Matt Parker came in a couple of years later, brought in as a new VP. He was all sharp suits and confident talk, a smooth operator. He was good at presenting, at taking credit. He saw me as just reliable, someone who got things done, someone who was replaceable. I'd spend weeks, sometimes months, developing a new feature or streamlining a process. I'd explain it to him in detail, showing him how it would save time and money. He'd nod, his eyes glazed over, already thinking about his next meeting. Then, a week later, he'd present my idea, my work, as his own in leadership meetings, soaking up the praise. It stung every single time. It felt like a small betrayal, but I pushed it down. I told myself it was for the company. As long as Echelon succeeded, it was okay. As long as my work was valued, even if the credit wasn't mine, it was okay, right? The hours were insane. 70, 75 a week was normal. Weekends were just extra work days, spent hunched over my laptop, debugging or developing. My personal life became a distant memory. My few friends stopped inviting me out, knowing I'd always say no. My family got used to me missing everything. Birthday dinners were skipped, holidays were cut short. My sister Sarah's wedding, I watched it on a shaky video call from my office, tears in my eyes while I tried to fix a server issue that absolutely could not wait. Sarah had called me the night before, begging me to come. "It's my wedding, Brooke. You're my sister." But I just said, "I can't, Sarah. The system's down. I have to fix it." Matt had found me hunched over my desk that day, looking at the tiny image of my sister walking down the aisle. He patted me on the shoulder, a casual, almost dismissive gesture. "Good job, Brooke. Team player. No raise, no extra vacation, just more work, more expectations, more reasons to feel invisible even when I was giving everything." My family didn't understand. They just saw me as distant, as choosing work over them. I felt it, the quiet disappointment in their voices, the way they moved on without me. It just made me work harder, trying to prove my worth somewhere. But I did it. I did it because I cared. I did it because I thought we were a team. I thought my loyalty meant something. I thought it was building something real, for me, for my future. Then came that Monday. The morning started like any other, alarm, quick coffee, out the door. But then the radio news started blaring, multi-car accident on I-196, traffic backed up for miles. My heart sank. I checked my GPS, a sea of red, no way around it. Panic started to bubble. I called the office, but the line was busy. I tried again, no answer. I texted Matt, explaining the situation, knowing he probably wouldn't see it until he got to his desk. 5 minutes, that's all it ended up being. 5 measly minutes. After years of giving them my life, after working through sickness, through family events, through holidays, when I walked into the office, the air felt different. Heavy. Matt was standing by my desk, not working, just waiting. HR was right behind him, their faces grim, holding a thin white envelope. My stomach dropped. Brooke Landry, Matt said, his voice flat, cold, devoid of any warmth. We have warned you about punctuality. This is a repeat offense. Warn me once, maybe months ago, when I was 2 minutes late after a dentist appointment. I had apologized profusely then. But warned? Repeat offense? It felt like a deliberate distortion, a pre-written script. My spotless record, years of dedication, sacrifices I couldn't even count, and this was it. This was the repayment. He handed me the letter, termination effective immediately. My eyes scanned the words, but they didn't register. It was a blur. My final paycheck, which I later saw was missing over 30 hours of overtime I put in the last 2 weeks, time I'd spent fixing a critical bug that saved them thousands. They asked for my badge, my laptop. No handshake, no, thank you for everything you've done, no goodbye that felt real. Just cold, professional dismissal, as if I was a machine that had stopped functioning. My coworkers looked shocked. Some avoided eye contact, shuffling papers, pretending to be busy. Others gave me pitying glances. I saw Sarah from accounting, her eyes wide, tears already welling up in her own. She whispered as I packed my meager personal belongings into the cheap cardboard box they provided, "You deserved so much better, Brooke. We all know it." Her words were a small comfort, but they also highlighted my deep isolation. No one spoke up. No one defended me. They were afraid. And in that moment, I realized I truly was alone. I walked out, the cheap cardboard box digging into my side. The fluorescent lights of the office seemed to mock me, shining down on an empty space where I had given so much. The elevator ride down felt endless, a descent into uncertainty. I didn't let the tears fall until I was in my car, parked in the employee lot I'd practically lived in for years. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, hot tears streaming down my face, mixing with the bitterness in my mouth. Shame washed over me, shame for being so foolish, so blind. Shame for believing in a company that saw me as disposable. But as I sat there sobbing, something shifted. The shock started to fade, replaced by a cold, hard anger. My hands, which had been shaking uncontrollably, grew steady. And in that moment, a quiet resolve settled over me. I knew I wasn't done, not by a long shot. The first week was a blur of disbelief and raw hurt. The quiet of my apartment, once a comfort, now felt oppressive. Every morning I woke up with a jolt, expecting to race to work, before remembering there was no work to go to. I kept replaying the scene in my head. 5 minutes. That's all it took to erase years of hard work, to dismiss my entire contribution. I questioned everything. Was I stupid to give so much? Were all those missed birthdays and late nights for nothing? Was I just fundamentally unlovable, even by a company? My family called, but their calls felt hollow. My mom suggested I just find another job, as if it were that simple. Sarah tried to be supportive, but she didn't really understand the depth of the betrayal. She had a stable job, a loving husband, a family that saw her. I had none of that, just this gaping hole where my career used to be. I started applying for jobs, but my heart wasn't in it. Each rejection email felt like another punch. My confidence was gone. I felt hollowed out, like a part of me, the part that felt useful and important, had been ripped away. The financial stress started to pile on. My savings were minimal, mostly because I'd always thought my job was secure, that the next raise was just around the corner. I started cutting back on everything, living on ramen and stale crackers. The future looked bleak, a long dark tunnel with no light at the end. Then one sleepless night, desperate for distraction, I started going through my old computer files, not for job applications but just to organize, to purge the past. I opened folders from my early days at Echelon, back to the very beginning when it was just a few of us huddled around a whiteboard dreaming big. And that's when I saw it, the files for the project management system, the one that was the backbone of their entire operation, the one I had built from scratch, line by agonizing line of code, late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer determination. I clicked through the documentation, the design specs, the early version control logs, and then it hit me, a cold, hard fact. There was no formal contract, no paperwork. When I had started, it was all handshake deals and promises of equity that never materialized. As the company grew, they formalized processes, signed NDAs, had employees sign IP agreements. But I had built the core system before any of that, it was just something I had created while working there. An internal tool. A gift, essentially. And legally, they had never secured the rights to it. A wave of realization, sharp and shocking, washed over me. I owned it. I actually owned the thing that made them run. I found a tech lawyer the very next morning, a sharp, shrewd woman named Miss Davies. I laid out my story, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and desperate hope. She listened patiently, asked precise questions, her eyes narrowing as I explained the missing contract. When I finished, she leaned back, a small smile playing on her lips. "Miss Landry," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You have a very strong case. Echelon Systems is operating on your intellectual property without a formal license or transfer of ownership." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal documents, phone calls, and whispered consultations. Miss Davies drew up the cease and desist letter. It was a formal, intimidating document demanding they immediately stop using the software I had created. The day it was sent I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. Would they laugh? Would they fight back? They didn't laugh. The letter landed like a bomb. It was a Friday afternoon when it hit their legal department. By Monday morning, Echelon's entire internal operation ground to a halt. Their project managers couldn't assign tasks, their logistics teams couldn't track shipments, their sales teams couldn't pull client data. Panic set in. I could almost feel it, a ripple in the small interconnected tech and logistics world we were both a part of. My old coworkers, some of whom still followed me on LinkedIn, started posting vague, panicked updates. Rumors flew. System outage. Major internal issues. I heard through the grapevine that Matt was frantic, yelling at everyone, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. The irony wasn't lost on me, he'd fired the person who built the system, and now the system itself was shutting them down. While they scrambled, trying to figure out what to do, I got to work. I wasn't just sitting back and watching them burn. I was building. I dusted off an old business plan I'd scribbled in a notebook years ago. A plan for a leaner, smarter logistics platform, one that put people first, one that valued loyalty instead of punishing tardiness caused by traffic accidents. It was a risky move, but what did I have to lose? The late nights returned, but this time they felt different. They were fueled by purpose, not obligation. I was building something for me. I poured all my knowledge, all my frustrations, all my lessons learned from Echelon into this new venture. I focused on making it intuitive, incredibly efficient, and scalable. I called a few contacts I'd made over the years, people who had always been impressed by my work but were stuck in their own corporate roles. I told them my story honestly and directly. I offered them freelance consulting on my new platform, explaining how it could streamline their own operations. Word spread fast. Brooke Landry, the woman who built Echelon's entire system, is now independent. And her new platform is better. It started with one small local distributor who hated their current software. I met with them, demonstrated my platform, and tailored it to their specific needs. They were thrilled. Their success became my first real-world case study. Then came another. And another. Within 6 months, 3 of Echelon's biggest clients had quietly, systematically switched to me. They were tired of the old system crashing, tired of the lack of real support, tired of the corporate bureaucracy. My platform was efficient, user-friendly, and came with me, the person who understood it inside and out, the person who genuinely cared about their success. I wasn't just selling software. I was selling expertise, reliability, and a promise of partnership. Then an email arrived. Subject: catching up. It was from Matt. My heart gave a little jolt. He wanted to clear the air. I hesitated for a long time before replying. What was there to clear? He had shown me exactly what I meant to him. He had taken everything I had given and tossed it aside like trash. But curiosity, and maybe a tiny bit of satisfaction, won out. I replied, agreeing to meet for coffee at a neutral spot, a small cafe far from the Echelon office. He arrived first, already looking tired, stressed. His usually slick hair was a little disheveled. The smugness was gone, replaced by a desperate, almost pleading edge to his eyes. He stammered, talking about how difficult things had been since the cease and desist. How clients were leaving in droves. How the whole company was struggling. He mentioned a lawsuit, implying I was ruining everything. But I just sat there, sipping my coffee, listening, my expression neutral. I felt nothing but a quiet detachment. Then he did something I didn't expect. He leaned forward, desperation etched on his face. He offered me my old job back, as VP of Operations. A huge raise. Anything, he said, if I would just come back and fix things. Brooke, we need you. I need you. You're the only one who truly understands the system. You built it. Please. I looked at him. Really looked at him. For the first time in years, not as my boss, not as the man who fired me, but just as another person. He was trapped in the mess he created, desperate for a way out. I saw his fear, his desperation. And I felt nothing. No anger. No desire for revenge. Just a quiet sense of being somewhere else now, somewhere far better. I smiled. A real smile this time, gentle but firm. Matt, I said, my voice calm and steady, devoid of any resentment, I'm not mad anymore. Just better off. He looked confused. Hurt, even. But don't you want to make things right for Echelon? You taught me what loyalty really costs, I continued, standing up slowly, placing my cup gently on the table. And it's not worth working 70 hours a week for someone who sees you as replaceable. Not when I can build something for myself, something that truly reflects my worth. I turned and walked away, leaving him sitting there alone with his cold coffee and his crumbling company. I didn't look back. The past was behind me. The future was mine now. And I was building it, one line of code, one satisfied client at a time. My family was slowly starting to understand too. They saw the passion in my eyes, the control I had over my life. I was finally seen, not by a company, but by myself. The ending of this story was going to be mine. All mine.